What happens when a self-made CEO steps into his own store disguised as a delivery guy only to find a manager berating employees over a paperclip? Zeke Fuller sat in his office staring at a report that didn't sit right. Customer satisfaction at location 16, one of his 20 office supply stores, had dropped for the third quarter in a row. No major complaints, but the comments were odd. Uncomfortable atmosphere, felt tense inside, staff looked scared. That wasn't the company he built. He started the company 10 years ago from his garage, delivering printer ink and paper to neighborhood businesses with nothing but a used van and a strong handshake. Now he had 20 locations across 3 states, each run by a store manager and a district manager overseeing 5 shops each. It had grown fast, maybe too fast. Zeke hadn't met every employee personally. They'd hired a lot of new people during the last expansion. Most of the store-level staff wouldn't recognize him even if he walked past them. He always stayed behind the scenes, especially the last 2 years. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing the back of his neck. If the problem isn't showing up in sales or formal complaints, maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. That's when the idea hit him. 2 days later, Zeke stood behind the wheel of a plain white van, wearing a faded gray hoodie, worn jeans, and a ball cap pulled low. His beard had grown in just enough to change his look. Fake name tag, clipboard, delivery manifest. He looked like any other third-party delivery guy. He'd even gone through a temp agency to make it real. No one at Store 16 had ever met Wayne from Metro Delivery. It was just past 8:30 in the morning when he arrived. The store was already open, but quiet. He wheeled in a dolly stacked with boxes of printer paper and toner, heading through the front entrance like any other contractor. Inside, the store was neat, bright, and tense. 2 employees behind the register barely looked up. A third was sweeping near the aisle with the pens and markers. No music, no chatter, just the sound of a vacuum running in the back. A tall man in his 40s with thinning blonde hair and a stiff posture came around the corner. "Delivery?" he asked, arms crossed. "Yeah. 5 boxes toner, 10 packs legal paper. Where you want 'em? Back room. Through that door. And don't block the emergency exit like last guy did." Zeke nodded and wheeled the dolly past him. He had barely stepped into the stockroom when raised voices echoed from the side hallway. "I told you 3 times, Cynthia, 3, and the labels are still crooked. It's not that hard. You line it up and press. You don't screw it up and shrug." Zeke froze. A woman's voice, soft but trying to stay composed, replied, "I am sorry. I thought—" "No. Stop. You thought wrong. Again. And don't roll your eyes at me. You want to be treated like a professional? Then act like one." Zeke stepped back, peeking around the doorway. The man from earlier, the store manager, apparently was standing inches from a younger woman who looked maybe 22. She wore a red vest and had her hands clasped tightly in front of her. Her eyes were on the floor. "It's just a shipping label," she said quietly. "Which is what we do here," he snapped. "If you can't handle labels, maybe you should go find something else to mess up." Zeke could feel his pulse rise. Another employee walked by, eyes down, pretending not to hear. The manager turned and caught him. "Derek, you left the cash drawer open for 2 seconds yesterday. Want to guess how fast someone can grab a 20 and walk? 2 seconds. I was just counting change," Derek mumbled. "Nobody was around. And that's the excuse you're going with? You think thieves are polite? You want to pay out of pocket next time." Zeke stepped forward, setting the dolly down harder than he meant to. The metal clanged against the floor. The manager turned. "What?" Zeke met his eyes calmly. "Didn't mean to interrupt your leadership seminar." The man narrowed his eyes. "This is a staff issue, not your concern." Zeke looked at Cynthia. Her hands were shaking. "You're right," Zeke said. "Not my concern. I'm just the delivery guy." He turned back into the stockroom, but his jaw was tight. He stayed there longer than needed, writing nothing on his clipboard. Back in the main store, he watched Derek help a customer who barely got a thank you. Cynthia was restocking shelves, moving slowly, checking every label twice. Zeke approached her as she knelt by a stack of binders. "Need a hand?" he asked casually. She looked surprised, then shook her head. I'm okay. You're new. 3 months. Like it here? She hesitated. It's fine. He nodded. You ever work anywhere else? Grocery store. Before this. How was that? She smiled just a little. Less paper. More yelling kids. He chuckled. And the manager? Didn't make me cry over mailing tape. Zeke's face hardened. He recognized the signs now. The lack of energy. The way employees avoided the back hallway. The silence. That wasn't just one bad day. That was a pattern. He walked out of the store that morning with a fake clipboard and a real problem. And he wasn't done yet. Zeke returned the next morning with a fresh clipboard, new boxes to drop off, and a deeper purpose. He parked the van a block away this time and walked in through the side entrance used by staff. No one questioned him. Wearing the same plain hoodie and cap, he passed easily as just another contract driver. Inside, the store was already humming quietly. No customers yet, but the staff was busy prepping. A younger guy with earbuds in was breaking down cardboard near the back. Zeke watched him for a moment. He was working fast but methodically, folding everything tight, keeping the area clean. He didn't look up, just kept going. Zeke wheeled his dolly through the narrow hallway. The manager he'd caught the name, Rod, on a clipboard yesterday was in the back office with the door open. He was on a call, voice flat, sounding tired. No, I've told them. The numbers aren't going to hit target if they keep wasting time. I don't care if it's the third warning. If she can't figure it out, she's gone. Zeke didn't pause. He moved past the office and headed into the stockroom. A few minutes later, Cynthia walked in carrying a small box of returns. Her eyes flicked toward him, then quickly away. Hey, Zeke said, keeping his tone easy. You got the returns section over here? She nodded toward the far shelf. Yeah. There. Rough morning. She didn't answer right away. Then, setting the box down, she said, he said my drawer came up short yesterday. 18 cents. Zeke raised an eyebrow. 18? He made me count it out 3 times. I think it was the coin roll. One of them was already short when I got it. You'd tell him that? I tried. She gave a small shrug. Didn't matter. Zeke didn't push further. Instead, he walked out into the main store. A young man in a too large vest was standing beside the ink cartridges, looking lost. Zeke approached him like a customer might. Looking for something? The guy blinked. Oh, I don't work here. Well, I just started. I'm shadowing today. New hire. Yeah. Brandon. He stuck out a hand. First job. Zeke shook it. Delivery. Wayne. Brandon looked around. They told me to wait here until someone could show me how the register works. Been waiting long? He looked at the floor. Like 20 minutes. I asked Derek, but he said he's not allowed to train. Zeke glanced around. No sign of Rod. Cynthia was helping a customer near the planners. Derek was loading shelves with paper reams, moving fast, head down. Zeke left Brandon and walked toward the front counter, where a short, sharp-featured woman in a navy blouse was counting out gift cards. You with management? He asked. She gave him a quick glance. I'm the assistant here. Why? New kid's been standing at aisle 3 looking like he's about to bolt. She made a noise in her throat. He's not on the clock yet. Rod said no training time until we're past morning rush. Zeke didn't respond. He walked back to Brandon. They say you're not on the schedule yet? Yeah. I guess I'm just watching. Zeke nodded. All right. If someone tries to buy a printer, just act like you know what you're doing. Brandon gave a nervous laugh. Cool. Zeke stayed close to the floor for the rest of the morning. He watched as the team moved around Rod. Every interaction was clipped. No one lingered. No one asked questions. Customers were handled fast, but without warmth. The store ran like a machine, efficient but cold. Just before noon, an older man with salt and pepper hair came in holding a stack of documents clipped together. He walked straight up to the counter. I need these scanned and emailed to my lawyer. He said they have to be in before 2. Cynthia stepped up. Of course. Rod appeared behind her. You know how to use the bulk scanner yet? She hesitated. I've only done single docs. Then don't screw it up. If there's a mistake, you're paying his lawyer fee. Zeke stepped forward before he could stop himself. I can help with that. Rod turned. You're a driver. I've used that model before. Takes a second to learn. Rod looked him over. Fine. If you mess it up, you're paying too. Zeke walked with Cynthia to the print center. She looked at him sideways. You really know how to use it? Yeah. I've got one in the back of my other job. She smiled faintly, and for once it didn't look forced. Together, they loaded the stack, adjusted the settings, and scanned everything clean. The customer nodded. Appreciate it. Real fast. Rod watched from the corner, arms crossed. Zeke stepped away and went to check on the break room. He found Derek sitting alone eating a protein bar with his phone out. You get a lunch? Derek shook his head. Just this. We're down one cashier today, so I'm covering. No coverage? He snorted. Rod said breaks are flexible. Which means you take them when he forgets about you. How long you been here? 8 months. I was part-time at first, then they bumped me up. Like it? Derek hesitated. I like the job. I just don't like coming in. Zeke nodded slowly. That says a lot. At the end of the day, Zeke helped load a pallet of toner into a backroom shelf. As he was about to leave, he noticed something odd. In the store logs, Rod had marked down that Derek took a 30-minute lunch and that Cynthia was late by 15 minutes. But Derek hadn't eaten more than a snack bar, and Cynthia had been there when Zeke arrived. Zeke took a photo of the log with his phone and slipped out. He returned 2 days later under a different pretense, this time as a vendor rep for a new ergonomic chair line. He brought sample brochures and asked for 5 minutes with the store manager. Rod barely glanced at him. Dropped the samples on the counter. I'll look later. It's a product demo, Zeke said. I can show the features in under 5 minutes. Rod sighed loudly. Fine. 5 minutes. Zeke walked him through the mechanics, deliberately drawing it out. While they talked, he watched staff move in and out behind them. Cynthia was limping slightly. He hadn't noticed that before. Brandon was struggling to lift a box of laminators, clearly too heavy for him. Derek was coaching a customer through a printer return, doing it all solo while 2 other customers waited. Rod didn't notice any of it. What's the warranty? He asked. 3 years, Zeke said. But the real value's in the lumbar support. You sit a lot. Stuck in the office most days. Do you ever walk the floor? Rod frowned. I delegate. That's what management is. Zeke closed the brochure. That's what bad management is. Rod blinked. What? Zeke pulled off the ball cap. Rod's mouth opened slightly. You're Zeke Fuller, he said evenly. Owner. Founder. Guy who just watched you run this store like a prison while your team held it together for you. Rod looked around, suddenly aware of the attention. I listen. If you'd said something, I did. 2 days ago. You just didn't hear it. You were too busy yelling about pocket change and threatening to dock pay over paper labels. Rod's posture shifted. These kids, they need structure. You give them too much slack, this place falls apart. Zeke stepped forward. This place is already falling apart. But not because of them. Cynthia's showing up early, Derek's skipping lunch, Brandon's been ignored since he walked in. And you? You're falsifying time logs and creating a hostile environment. Rod's voice dropped. I've been here 5 years. And that ends today. Rod stared at him, stunned. Zeke turned toward the front. Cynthia, Derek, Brandon, can I see you all in the break room? They followed, confused. Zeke waited until the door was shut. I owe you all an apology, he said. You've been working under conditions no one should have to deal with. He turned to Cynthia. You've been patient and detail-oriented under constant pressure. That's not something I overlook. He faced Derek. You've kept this place running without even a lunch break. That ends now. To Brandon, you walked into chaos and stayed. You're going to get trained properly. Starting tomorrow. Then he looked at all 3. Rod's done. Effective immediately. HR will be in touch with you for written statements. In the meantime, I'll be on site this week and we'll be bringing in interim management. They stood in silence. Derek finally said, You're really the owner? Zeke nodded. And I just remembered why I started this company in the first place. No one said anything for a moment. Then Cynthia exhaled, shakily. Thank you. Zeke nodded again. Let's fix this. Zeke sat at the corner desk in the small, cluttered back office of Store 16. The overhead light buzzed faintly, casting a yellow hue over the paperwork spread in front of him. An open laptop displayed the latest employee scheduling sheet, and beside it, handwritten notes from his past 3 days on site. He hadn't planned to stay this embedded, but now that he'd pulled the curtain back, there was no walking away. Rod was gone. An HR investigator had arrived that morning to start exit documentation and collect testimony from the team. Zeke had stepped out of the room for that part, to avoid influencing anyone's statement. The store wasn't fixed overnight, but the mood had shifted cautiously, like a heavy fog had lifted, but people weren't sure if the sun was going to stay out. Zeke had made it clear. He wasn't here to play boss from a distance anymore. He'd be on site for at least a week, maybe longer, until a new manager was identified and trained. In the meantime, he was filling the role himself. The first challenge hit him before the clock even struck 10. Derek leaned in through the office door. Quick thing. We just had a no-show. Emma didn't come in for her shift. She hasn't called either. Zeke looked up. Was she scheduled for register or floor? Register. She was supposed to open the second lane. Have someone else clocked in who can cover? Only 2 right now, Cynthia and Brandon. Zeke exhaled through his nose and pushed back from the desk. All right, let's move Brandon up to lane 2. I'll take floor support. Brandon's eyes went wide when Zeke told him. I haven't done register solo yet. You've shadowed 2 days, right? He nodded slowly. You've got this. Cynthia's on lane 1. If you get stuck, call her over. I'll be right out there too. I thought you were, like, the guy in charge. I am. That's why I'm doing whatever needs doing. Brandon grinned nervously and headed to the counter. Zeke grabbed a restocking cart and rolled it toward aisle 4. By mid-morning, the store was filling up. Small business owners grabbing bulk paper, freelancers printing client contracts, a teacher hunting down a specific model of 3-hole punch. The usual rhythm. But Zeke could feel the strain. 2 cashiers weren't enough. He flagged Derek as he walked past the toner display. Take 5. Then jump on returns for the next hour. Derek blinked. You sure? Yeah. You've been running since 8. Appreciate it. Zeke continued down the aisle and nearly collided with a customer holding a large shredder box. Need help with that? She looked relieved. Yes, thank you. I couldn't find anyone to ask. He took the box. We're a little short today. Let me walk this up front for you. As they walked, she glanced at his name badge. Wayne, right? You're new. Sort of. Helping out. Well, I hope you stick around. You're the first person who offered help without me waving someone down. He nodded but didn't answer. Back at the counter, Brandon was handling a line of 3 customers. He was moving slowly but methodically, checking IDs for credit purchases, counting change twice. Cynthia was beside him, scanning items while still keeping an eye on the receipt printer that had started jamming again. Zeke stepped in, cleared the paper slot, and reset the feed. Cynthia looked over. I was gonna get to that right after this guy. You've got enough going. I've done more jam clears this week than I care to count. She smiled quickly and turned back to the customer. Just after noon, the district manager arrived. Sandra Bennett. She was sharp-featured, mid-40s, with clear blue eyes and a clipboard perpetually in hand. She hadn't expected Zeke's presence. You're still here, she asked in a low voice just past the greeting area. I'm managing until we bring someone new in. I thought we'd transfer someone from another location. That's not happening. I need someone who understands what went wrong here. Sandra raised an eyebrow. We've had turnover before. Every store gets some. This wasn't turnover. This was rot. Quiet, slow, and spreading. She didn't argue, but she didn't agree either. I'll be doing a full audit today. HR's asking for a list of any documentation Rod left behind. Zeke nodded. Already compiled. She hesitated, then glanced around. You're doing all this yourself? I've got a team. They just haven't had a leader in a while. Sandra didn't say anything else. She moved toward the back office, heels clicking. That afternoon brought a wave of customers' corporate accounts doing end-of-month supply runs. Zeke was on the floor when he noticed a man in a tan blazer arguing with Brandon at the register. "I don't care what this says," the man was saying, tapping a receipt. "I was promised a discount. 40%. Brandon looked panicked. "I can check the promo code again, but I think it's only 20. I've been coming here for 6 years. Don't tell me what the discount is." Zeke stepped in. "Sir, I can help here. I'm the acting manager." The man turned. "Finally. Can someone competent explain why I'm being overcharged?" Zeke didn't flinch. "Let's take a look." He reviewed the items. The discount had applied correctly, 20% off select ink cartridges, not the entire purchase. He explained it calmly. "The promotion is limited by brand. The rest is full price." The man scowled. "Rod always gave me 40. Zeke kept his tone even. "That wasn't authorized. But I'm happy to review your account and see what we can offer going forward." Unbelievable. The man stuffed the receipt in his pocket. Rod knew how to run a store. This new system? Joke. He walked off without taking the bag. Brandon looked rattled. "Did I screw that up?" "You handled it fine. Some people hear what they want, not what's said. I thought maybe I misread it." Zeke shook his head. "I checked. You were right." Brandon nodded, still quiet. Later, while restocking copy paper, Cynthia glanced over. He always came in right before close. Rod gave him free stuff all the time. Zeke frowned. "Why?" "I think he liked having someone to talk down to." That evening, after the last customer left, Zeke gathered the team near the break room. He didn't stand behind anything, no desk, no podium. Just stood with them shoulder to shoulder. "We're rebuilding the store. Not just the workflow, but the trust. That won't happen overnight. But it starts now." Cynthia crossed her arms. "Is someone new coming in?" "Eventually. But not until I find someone who listens better than they talk." Derek raised a hand slightly. "What about coverage? We're still running short. Already posted 2 open positions. But we'll stagger hours better until then. No more skipped lunches. I'll be here to backfill when needed." Brandon looked down. "I'm not great at the register yet. You're improving every hour. That's what matters." Cynthia's voice was quiet but firm. "It feels different. Being heard. It should. You've earned that." As people began to gather their things, Zeke caught Sandra watching from across the store. She said nothing, just nodded once and turned toward the exit. Zeke lingered a moment longer, alone in the quiet. He'd seen what silence could hide. Now it was time to make sure the right voices were finally being heard. By Friday morning, the store opened to overcast skies and the hush of a slow drizzle tapping the roof. Zeke stood behind the service counter with a thick notepad, squinting through the glass doors as the first customers came in. He had already spent 4 days on site, but today wasn't about observation anymore. It was about building structure that would last after he left. He had scheduled one-on-ones with each employee, staggered through the day. Not performance reviews. Not feedback sessions. Just conversation. He needed to understand what they needed to thrive, not just survive. Derek came first. He stepped into the back office wearing a navy fleece and carrying a half-empty cup of coffee. Zeke motioned for him to sit. "You've been here the longest," Zeke said. "What would you change if you could?" Derek looked unsure. "About the store?" "Anything." He tapped the side of his cup before answering. "We never had coverage for weekends. So if someone's sick, you're either staying or you're scrambling." Zeke wrote that down. "And your hours?" "I work 5 days, usually 6-hour shifts. Sometimes more if someone calls out. But it's not really the hours, it's that nobody used to ask what was realistic." Zeke nodded slowly. "What's realistic for you?" "I can do 5 days. But I need 1 night a week where I'm off by 5:30. My sister's got a kid. I watch him while she works second shift." Zeke looked up. "Done." Derek blinked. "Seriously? You're doing right by your family. I'll make sure the schedule does right by you." Next was Brandon. He sat stiffly in the chair, hands clasped in front of him. "You've been thrown into things fast," Zeke said. "How are you holding up?" Brandon gave a half nod. "It's been a lot. I don't want to mess anything up. What's still unclear? He hesitated. I don't know the return process yet. And I haven't learned the print station. Zeke jotted it down. We'll assign someone to each of those. You'll shadow them next week. Thanks. Zeke leaned forward. One more thing. What kind of work do you actually want to do? Brandon looked surprised by the question. I mean, I'm fine here. That's not what I asked. He looked down for a second, then said, I like tech. I used to help my uncle fix laptops. I know how to build desktops from parts too. Zeke smiled faintly. We're rolling out a device repair program next quarter. I'll make sure you're trained for that if you're interested. Brandon's eyes widened. Really? You've got to keep learning. Otherwise, this place becomes a dead end. Cynthia came in after lunch, carrying a small notebook. She seemed more relaxed than she had earlier in the week, but her eyes still scanned the room like she was bracing for something. Zeke waited until she sat before saying anything. I read your customer comment cards from the last 2 months. You've got the highest number of positive mentions of anyone in the store. She looked surprised. I didn't know they tracked that. They do. And so do I. She stayed quiet. You've been steady through a lot, Zeke said. But I noticed your wrist was wrapped this morning. You all right? She pulled her sleeve down. It's just strain. I've been lifting more because we're short. I'll get you off loading duty until you're cleared. She nodded slowly. Thank you. Zeke tapped his pen on the pad. What kind of support would make this job sustainable for you? She hesitated, then said quietly, clear expectations. Not guessing what mood someone's in. And maybe a chance to move up if I'm doing well. Zeke looked her in the eye. I'm assigning you to mentor Brandon. That's your first step. If that goes well, we'll talk about formal training for assistant manager. She blinked twice. Seriously? You've already been doing half the job. Might as well give you the title and the pay. She didn't smile, but her shoulders dropped slightly. Less tension. By late afternoon, the store felt different. It wasn't louder or faster. It was steadier. The team moved with less hesitation. Brandon asked more questions. Derek started setting up a new toner end cap without being prompted. Cynthia corrected an inventory error without needing approval. Around 4, Sandra returned. She found Zeke near the print center, organizing labels by SKU. I did my audit, she said. Rod's documentation was a mess. I figured, Zeke replied without looking up. He listed Brandon as clocked in for 2 full shifts he never worked. Tried to inflate labor coverage. Zeke nodded. That lines up. HR's finalizing the termination terms. It's going on record as misconduct. Good. Sandra looked around. You've got this place running smoother, but you can't stay here forever. I won't. But I'm not leaving until the right person's ready. She raised an eyebrow. Everyone's expecting you to pull someone from another location. I'm not going to do that. She folded her arms. So who? Zeke straightened up. Cynthia. Sandra blinked. She's the cashier. She's the glue. She's already mentoring. Give me 2 weeks, and she'll be ready to step up. Sandra didn't respond immediately. Then she said, You're putting a lot of trust in someone who's never managed before. I'm putting trust in someone who shows up, listens, and doesn't flinch under pressure. That's more than I can say for the last guy. Sandra paused. All right, I'll notify HR to start the training paperwork. But the district team's going to want to see performance metrics. They'll get them. That evening, with the rain finally cleared, Zeke stood by the front counter as the last customer exited. The floor was clean. Displays were reset. The team was clocking out in pairs, chatting in low tones. Cynthia pulled the gate halfway down and looked back at him. You're still here. Just finishing up. She walked over, notebook under her arm. Brandon did fine today. I'll keep an eye on him next week. Good. She hesitated. I never thought I'd be in a job where the owner knew my name. Zeke gave a small nod. That's my failure for letting it get that way. Won't happen again. She looked toward the break room. You think the other stores are like this? Some, maybe. I'm going to find out. She didn't ask how. She didn't need to. When the lights dimmed and the last door locked, Zeke stepped into the cool air outside and looked up at the sky. The clouds had broken. Faint light was peeking through. He had walked into store 16 expecting to spend an hour dropping off toner. Instead, he'd found a team quietly surviving in silence. Not broken, but buried. Now they had room to breathe. And Zeke had remembered something vital. Leadership wasn't about policies or reports. It was about standing shoulder to shoulder with the people who made the business real. He unlocked his van, climbed in, and pulled out a fresh clipboard. 19 stores left. He wasn't done yet. But this one was finally right.